Israel in the Galilee. We have beautiful weather today. Gosh, it's great. Not too hot, not too cold. Great night last night for terms of the weather. Really nice. Um, Let me go check on the live stream. Please don't. No, we don't have internet. What's up? There it is. Do we? What's going on? Let me check here something with the internet on my handheld. Oh, I had the Wi-Fi turned off. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, now we'll have internet. There we go. Okay, please don't post in the chat for a couple of minutes till I get my posts up. We got sound and picture. Okay, please don't post in the chat for a couple of minutes till I get my posts up. We got sound and picture. Typo here. Let me shut the sound so we get rid of the echo. And I'll be right with you guys. Giving people a chance to come in. I think we're good to go. Okay, being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise. If you want to join in and you're a true believer in Yeshua HaMashiach, it's up to you. Join in if you like. It's up to you. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So what I'm going to do today is not do current events. I'm going to go show you in Zechariah 12 why we're so close. You got all the confirmations the last few days regarding the different harvests, the grape harvests and so forth, and the summer, and that's when the year of recompenses is going to end. It'll end approximately the very end of July or the first few days in August. And Year of Recompenses has an overlap with the Year of Redemption because the Day of Vengeance is associated with both of those years. Okay? redemption's going to be when everybody gets their land back based on a Jubilee year, which I believe we're in a Jubilee year based on the crops and the amount of rain we had. And that would have started on February 11th of 2024. Is it possible that that is when the overlap started because of Isaiah 61? It is. It could be when redemption started, but I don't know that. Okay? And I don't have a specific day or hour when it's going to start. Okay? When it's going to happen. And the beginning of it is going to be the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, like the lightning from the east to the west. And we have covered that most extensively for quite some time. In Zechariah 12, I used to state that the heathen laying siege to Judah and Jerusalem was the heathen in the land of Israel. And then I said it could also be interpreted when it says heifer, it's for the land, it could sometimes mean the earth. And the Lord, as soon as I woke up this morning, showed me I needed to clarify this with you. I can't leave it with two possible meanings. There are no two possible meanings, it's one. And that's Haaretz is the land of Israel, and the heathen are in the land. Now, the land here is the land that he gave to our fathers. You will have the land I gave to your fathers. Okay? And that's the land we get back in these days. Okay? You got it? All right. So we're not going to have all the other countries. We're not going to have Turkey. We're not going to have Egypt and stuff like that. All right, so who is in the land that he gave to the fathers now? Well, we should have Lebanon up north from our border about 150 miles, which is a massive piece of Lebanon. We should have a major hunk of Jordan. Ammon is the capital of Jordan now. That's northern Jordan. Moab would be more like central, and Edom would either be southern Jordan, southwest Jordan, or according to some historians, it could also fall within northwest Saudi Arabia. So remember, when these nations recreated in recent century or two, they didn't match identically the old borders of Arabia and this and that. So anyway, it's probably Jordan. It, very many people say it's the southwest Jordan. So the laying of a siege or a surrounding or an encampment around is already in place, missing one country. Let's go with Jordan being Ammon, Moab, and Edom, okay? So I think that's the more reasonable right now, but I have to leave room that the Houthis may somehow, some way, shape, or form come up from Yemen into that area, like they've been threatening to try to come in and save Gaza, okay? Hamas and Gaza, PIJ and Gaza, etc. All right? So, but I'm not leaning there. I'm going more for Jordan. Okay, so let's assume it's Jordan, but okay, if we see changes happening, which would have to be pretty soon, we'll see it. But right now, I'm not seeing it because Saudi would fight against them, Israel, and all this other stuff. Okay, so I don't see it right now. So let's just stay with Jordan. So that's what's left. Jordan, for many months now, has had a lot of riots and protesters and people trying to push through the wall or the fence or the border wall, between whatever you want to call it, between Jordan and Israel, and come in to help the Muslim terrorists kill Israel. Okay? The king of Jordan is weak and he could be subject to an overthrow. He did shoot some missiles and drones down on behalf of Israel, and it's very likely that Iran and other factors would be likely trying to get rid of him. He has a good amount of American troops in his country, but Biden could go flip-flop on anybody at any point in time. The Biden administration vacillates heavily. That means they go back and forth. Okay, now they were saying they're going to put sanctions on Israeli soldiers for what they're doing in the West Bank, hold units and stuff. Now they rescinded that. They keep changing. Don't attack Rafah. Okay, attack Rafah. You know? Now, with the Jeremiah 50:51, with the troops in Israel doing evil, that looks like it's still on. Okay? There's a lot of possibilities for that. One very likely one is this temporary pier that's being built by Gaza on the Mediterranean, and the geniuses at Hamas are shooting mortars at it now. I mean, this is just nuts, right? So that would put the troops in Gaza, which is really Israel, but they would probably or likely go into the West Bank to help Jordan. See, the United States likes the dictators running the Arab countries. Now, the countries that have dictators in this immediate region are Kuwait. Oh, they call them kings, caliphs, emir. You know, it's a dictator. Okay, or you want to call him a king. What's the difference? So you got Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Jordan. Iraq is not run by a king. Okay, neither is Egypt. So these kingly states are in bed with the United States and have been for a long time. The Shiite interpretation of the Quran, and the Shiite countries that we're talking about here are Iran, Iraq, Syria, although he's in some sort of a spin-off sect of Muslims, of Islam, but he's on the side of the Shiites. Lebanon, although Lebanon is a divided country, they got Catholics, Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, I think some, Muslims and stuff like that. It's all mixed up. Okay, and Gaza is Shiite, but the Hezbollah is Shiite oriented, as is Yemen. So the trouble is now coming from the Shiite oriented states. Okay, the United States is backing the kings because they're the easiest corrupted. So they pump the oil, and I guess there's all different kinds of ways America can benefit from that. One obvious one is selling them a fantastic, expensive amount of weapons all the time, which brings the money back to America. So you buy their oil, and then they buy the weapons. The money comes back to the defense industries, Raytheon, Westinghouse, or whoever, Lockheed and all that, right? And that's one darn good reason why there's troops in there to protect them. They don't want to see these places fall, because if they fall to the likes of Iran and the proxies, the price of oil will soar on purpose to break America. Now, with the sanctions, the idiocy here is China was exposed recently in one of the oceans that tankers left Iran with oil and then transfer, I think it was $1.3 billion worth. This is the other day, and transferred it at sea to other ships, which took it to China. So China could try to keep their hands clean. But the reality is, China is buying massive amounts of Iranian oil and keeping them going. And so is India. Now, like I told you, India sooner or later is going to have to take a stand as to whose side they're on. Modi is trying to walk a walk of solitude where he's his own guy, his own country, and he tries to get along with everybody and doesn't want to get into any wars. That the days of that happening are rapidly coming to a conclusion. So India buys a tremendous amount of oil from Iran too. They sort of got, I believe they got exempted from the sanctions. So these two countries have the biggest populations in the world, India and China. Okay? Together, they make up probably over 3 billion people out of what, 8 billion in the world. So they're almost half the population of the world. And they're sucking up Iranian oil like it's going out of style. Okay? So that's where Iran's getting its money from, and Biden, of course, will do nothing. Trump would, of course, he's just simply theoretical. Trump is never going to have time to get into office in America, as I see it, through a normal scheduled election. He just went to the Supreme Court, I think, yesterday, and had a hearing trying to invoke presidential immunity to get out of at least some of his criminal or civil cases or something. Now, the interview he gave when he got out of there, out of the court, was he was distraught. He didn't look like Trump, okay? And he was talking, and he said that he thought it went very well. There was different testimonies given and stuff. If Trump actually testified, my guess is no. Supreme Court wouldn't be all that likely to start listening to defendants as witnesses. They want to hear the arguments from the lawyers. They're there to decide matters of law, if you want to believe that. So his lawyers probably testified, and the opposing sides, which would be the prosecutors, probably testified as well. Now, if you want to make a lot of money as a lawyer, you could go to work for the United States Attorney's Office, in the Justice Department, and be a prosecutor and work your way up for several years. And the law firms, after you have, I guess they probably want to see 3 to 10 years of experience before they start getting really interested in recruiting you. After, let's say, 4 or 5 years, you know the ropes around the U.S. Attorney's Office. Now, if you're prosecuting people for drugs or, stolen cars crossing state lines or something like that, they're probably not highly interested in you because there's not a lot of money defending these kind of people. But if you're doing the high-level cases, that involve billion-dollar corporations and cities and states and things like that, they're very interested in people like that, and they'll show up and say, hey, we'll give you, $100,000, $200,000 a month, and we'll make you a senior partner. You'll walk away with $3 to $5 million every year. And these lawyers are charging $1,500 an hour for people like that. They, and nobody can afford them except a few billionaires running around in the major corporations. But they hire these people because these people know the workings of the Justice Department and the, Attorney General's office, and they know the arguments, and they've been trained by the senior guys and so forth. Now, there's a lot of people in the Attorney General's office in the federal government that are not interested in going to work in the private sector. They make a decent living. They probably, I guess, somebody with some seniority is probably at least 150, maybe 200, 220,000 a year, which is a sufficient, comfortable living. You know, they can pay off a house, have cars, send kids to school, you know, all the stuff they like. And they got the security and they get big vacations and they don't have the self confidence to go into the private sector because the private sector can always get rid of them. Okay, they don't like that. You know, there's a lot of good criminal lawyers that work for district attorneys' offices, and they're there for, oh, you know, 15 years, 20 years. And, you know, firms that do criminal cases would love to recruit these people um, because they're really pretty darn good when they've been there that long and they're senior level. They're not still working on a guy that's prosecuting a purse snatcher or stuff like that. They're doing major cases, rapes, murders, arson, insurance fraud, fraud in general, embezzlement, blackmail. You know, they're working on big stuff, okay? Big stuff. They love to recruit them, but a lot of times they don't want to go because they like the security of being a civil servant, and they're there so long, and it's nearly impossible to get fired. Um, and they got a pension, and they're making a good living. You know, they're over 100,000, 150,000 or more by then. Maybe in some cases they're 250,000, and they just like it. They're not going to go. You know, um, so the big firms, the $1,500 an hour, are always trying to recruit these people. So Trump probably hired a team of lawyers that probably has at least 3 or 4 people that worked for the Justice Department on high level cases for a number of years and know what the heck they're doing. Okay? Um, Now, I don't know what the Supreme Court's going to do. I really don't know. Um, they might think that it's important to hold up presidential immunity and hand the day to Trump with a victory, or they might say, no, what Trump did is not covered by presidential immunity. In which case, Trump stays in the jackpot. I don't think Trump is that worried about civil cases at all. He's worried about the criminal stuff. He didn't look good. He looked bad. And he was talking about how presidential immunity is the key to everything and all of this stuff. So we'll see what happens there. But, if Trump looks like he's going down, you got to remember he may start not so subtly calling for a revolution publicly. And Biden is so not knowing what to do about anything really, and his administration, that it might actually cause the ruler versus ruler in America. But Trump is not a ruler of anything. So he could be a mouthpiece for some movement, but I don't know. There's a lot of people in the United States right now that are very mad at the Biden administration. You're talking tens of millions of people, many millions of people. Okay? America has a massive amount of people that just don't care. They go to work, they put gas in their car, they finance cars, they finance the house, they got the internet, they play games, they go to the movies, they eat out, they're okay. They don't care who the president is. As long as they got food in the fridge, gas in the tank, they can buy their guns, they're not that worried. And there's a lot of people that are significantly worried. And I'm talking, you probably had at least 40, 50 million people that are, or maybe 20 million, that are significantly worried and concerned about this. And if they see Trump being what they'll refer to in their minds as being railroaded by the Biden administration to avoid competition, that's how they view the situation. They may say that their hope is gone and they have to rise up. It could very well happen. Abbott has not emerged as a leader for a civil war. He's just focusing on the Texas border stuff. And Biden's been leaving him alone to some extent, and he's just continuing to do that. So I'm not so sure what um, way this is going to play out. But it's just a side issue, okay? Unless things get to a point where it's not waiting for the November elections. And that's not even the due date. Biden still is president until January 20th, 2025. That's far off the way things are moving. So he could lose the election and still create turmoil, you know. He could lose the election and be vindictive against the people for not putting him in office and still throw the country into some turmoil, economically, civil war, wars around the world. He could do all kinds of things. Yeah, it's protocol for him not to if he loses the election. He's called a lame duck. But Biden has broken all the protocols. So, you know, the Justice Department could not be prosecuting Trump criminally without Biden letting it happen. Biden would have the ability to stop that, I would think. Okay. So I think that's important also. Let me jump into the chat to see if I got anything I got to deal with over there. Well, we don't have any garbage to throw out. You see, since this battle happened in Iran, well, we attacked Iran in what I understand to be 7 locations. Most of them were nuclear plants where we took out their radar, so they have no defense mechanisms. They can't defend against the future attack. It'll take them some time to reestablish that. But they're not coming in here and harassing us anymore because they're nervous. And as I've covered with you with the Muslim theology, is they feel that Israel will sacrifice a red heifer and the ultra Orthodox will then consider themselves cleansed when they're sprinkled with the water from the ashes of the red heifer, and then they'll go up to the Temple Mount by hook or crook, forced away if they have to, because they'll consider themselves clean to go to what they will call a holy place, which is absurd because in the eyes of Jehovah there's abominations up there. But anyway, this is what they think. And they'll offer the sacrifice, they'll offer the red heifer up there, or they'll go up there because they're now cleansed, I should say. And they'll pray, and they think they'll at that point be bold enough to knock down the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And if they do that, they'll build their temple, which will usher in their false Messiah, which they consider, they have a name, Dajjal or something like that for it. And this Dajjal will wage war against Islam. So the fact they're no longer coming in and harassing us since this happened means to me that they're very, very worried. Yeah, their spirit's broken, but they're very, very worried because they don't see how they're going to stop it. Okay, got it? So what we're going to do is break Zechariah 12 down And this is to show you how close we really are. And I was doing this with the grapes and the figs and all of that, and I'm doing it again today in a different level, so you understand how close we really are. Now, Zechariah 12:1. The burden of the word of Jehovah for Israel, saith Jehovah, which stretcheth forth the heaven, layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Now you're going to learn some different things today, new things. Not different, but more illumination, or looking at it with a magnifying glass or something. Behold, I will make Yerushalayim a cup of trembling. It's not really saying that, it's saying it's a basin of reeling, Reeling. So a basin is like a big bowl. So all the surrounding heathens that are harassing us can partake of this basin of reeling at the same time. Okay, so it's not the same thing as a cup being passed around. The word for cup is saf, which is Strong's number 5592. It's a spreading out, a basin, a bowl. Okay, it's not. I could see why they translated it cup, because they were going back to the cup of trembling, but it's a little different. It's a basin, and the word for trembling is Ra'al, Strong's number 7478, and it means reeling. And the way Strong's deals with this in English is a reeling from intoxication or a trembling. Well, a reeling is you're staggering around, okay? You're like intoxicated. Trembling is more like the withdrawal from the alcohol, where they shake. You see them, they come to work in the morning, the alcoholics, and they smoke 2-3 packs a day, and they take their cigarettes, and they need two hands to put it in the ashtray. And that's from the days when people could smoke at the workplace. I don't think there's many places you can anymore. So it's a cup of it's a basin of reeling. A basin's a big thing. They could all drink out of it at the same time. The trembling comes after the intoxication. Not such a good translation. Reeling means they go into the basin, they drink, and they're staggering around, not the withdrawal from the alcohol. No, this reeling is not due to alcohol. It's a spiritual thing that we're dealing with, a spiritual, like an allegory, okay? Unto all the people, and that word is people, round about, okay? So let's try to put the words here into better English. So it's this trembling word, and then it says unto all, and that's not correct. It says all, okay? So it's the basin of reeling all people, all people, and the word for roundabout is sabiv, Strong's 5439. Circling about, roundabout. How does Strong's throw it into English? Let's see. A circle, neighbor. It could be the neighbor. Okay. So maybe we should say neighbors roundabout, or neighbors around us. So it's saying all people, neighbors around us, when they shall be, and there's a lot of words for one English word, hey, to, well, it's not translated very badly either. Um, be, become, come, pass. Has a lot of meanings, but it's not so badly translated. And then the siege is the surrounding, an enclosure, a siege, entrenchments. Um, okay, so it's saying the neighbors around us will be in the siege that's coming from around us, both against Judah and Jerusalem. So the ones that are doing this are Gaza, that's already in place, Lebanon, that's already in place, Syria. I guess that's another piece of the puzzle that's missing too. Syria, and they're already attacking us and stuff, you know that. And Jordan, which is not attacking us. Now, Israel has a border in the southeast. Let me get a map up. Iraq has no border with us, and Turkey has no border with us, so they're not in this, okay? Neither does Iran, so they're not in it. Now that I'm looking at the map of Jordan, I think Jordan is a better candidate again than Saudi Arabia. So I think we're gonna get a better map here. Look for a better one. Hold on. Trying to find good maps is an extreme challenge when you're dealing with biblical stuff, you know. It's very hard to get a good one. Really, it's cut close, but Israel does not have a border with Jordan, with Saudi Arabia. Israel does have a border with the Sinai Peninsula, which we used to have and get back to Egypt under America's pressure. That was, I think, with Anwar Sadat, he got assassinated over it. So we might see something happen there. Lots of people from Gaza may be going into there, and some I think already went from the Gaza war. So that could be another rising up from there. So the people round about would need to include the Sinai Peninsula, I expect. Um, I wouldn't really know how to get out of that. Syria has a border with us up on the north, so that has to be in there too. So we have more than maybe. Well, Syria's already operating against us. The Sinai Peninsula, yes and no. There's no real missiles and things coming in from the Sinai Peninsula. Now, Yemen could come up the Red Sea into the Sinai Peninsula if they had enough troop transports. You can't swim, it's too far. So we might see something happen there, but again, to surround us all about, you would have to have that too. So there's really two pieces of the puzzle. I don't know what this is doing here. It's making. So you'd really need to see two pieces of the puzzle. We need the Sinai Peninsula and Jordan. Sorry, I overlooked that. Okay. And the attack in Rafah is on. Biden has learned to live with it now. Humanitarian aid is soaring in Gaza. They're flooded with food and stuff. And we'll have to see. They're afraid that hundreds of thousands will go into the West Bank. Rafah has 1.5 million people in it right now. And Israel built 40,000 tents. Now, they're good sized tents. And you might be able to put 10 people in a tent. And that would give you 400,000, leaving over 1 million without a tent. So we got a problem there. The United States wants Egypt to let them go into the West Bank. Egypt doesn't want it, but Egypt doesn't necessarily get what they want. The Muslim Brotherhood, who al-Sisi in Egypt is afraid of desperately, would want the Gaza refugees to go into the West Bank because they could strike against Israel. So this is a likely occurrence, but remember, I've told you this a lot, that expect very unusual twists and turns as we go down this road of prophecy fulfillment. Don't expect it to be completely black and white and direct. It's going to have many twists and turns. That's the way it works. Okay, so back to Zechariah. So it's a basin of reeling that many reeling, that's like swaggering, swaying, right? And many people can partake of this basin at the same time. And it's siege, which is basically a surrounding. So the surrounding is almost complete. You got that? Okay. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces. Though all the people of the earth, it does not say that. They twisted the translation. The word for people is Am. This word is not Am. This is the Goyim, which is the heathen. So it's saying, so they twisted the word here, they twisted the interpretation of the word for earth too. Okay? That's what they did. So all the heathen of Haaretz, the land of Israel, the land that he gave to our fathers, that he's giving to us, that's what this is referencing. Okay? Be gathered together against it. Well, there's two pieces missing, right? Not for long. In that day, say this is always, it's going to say repeatedly over and over, that day, that day, that day. Likely it's the day of vengeance. In that day, saith Jehovah, I can't guarantee that, but I'm thinking likely. In that day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness, and I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah. And that's who's in the land now, Judah. The 10 tribes are not here. And will smite every horse of the people. with blindness. Now, I told you a story, when the Lord didn't want me doing something about posting the way I was working with the ministry. He didn't want me doing it. I think I was putting an overemphasis on the wars and current events, and so my iPad wasn't working, and it wasn't working, and then I realized what he wanted me to do, and I wasn't doing it, and then all of a sudden the iPad was working again. God can deactivate tanks and planes and missiles, etc., if he wants to. So could the two witnesses, because they could call down plagues, and they were able to stop the light in Egypt. There was no light in the land. They couldn't see the hand in front of their face, I would think. And the Egyptians had no light in their house. They couldn't make anything light up. No lamps, no coals. Yet the Israelites in Goshen didn't have light outside, but they had light in their house. Now, possibly they were able to light a torch in their house and walk around outside with a torch. This I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no, we're not told. And it was, I think, 3 days. So they were staying in their house. They had light in their house. Okay? Now, there's no good, earthly explanation for this. It's a supernatural occurrence. That's that. Okay? So the souse is a horse or a swallow flies. So it could be the weapons of war that are gone, they don't work anymore. I would smite every horse with astonishment. Well, the word from astonishment is stupefaction, bewilderment. Strong says astonishment. So I don't know. But the weapons aren't effective anymore if they have them, or if they're just on horses, the horses aren't working right. Okay? Will smite every horse of the people, and the word for people there is people, with blindness. And the word for blindness means, I think it means blindness. It's madness, blindness. 5788 is the blindness word, and Strong's refers to it as blindness. So, and the governors of Judah shall say, now that's the chiefs, and Kyle and Delich call this the princes, but it's the judges, because in Isaiah 1, God says he's going to run Israel with the judges again and the 70 counselors. So they're really the judges, is who it is. The judges of Judah, that's what we have now, we're Judah. I know they call it Israel, but in God's eyes right now, we're Judah, because the 10 tribes aren't here, and we don't have all the land. Like King David ruled in Damascus, which is in Syria, this type of thing. Shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength in Jehovah of armies, their God. It doesn't exactly say that, although some translators say that. It's inhabitants Jerusalem, and then the word strength is Strong's 556, which means basically strength. So it's saying inhabitants Jerusalem, strength, Jehovah, arm of armies. Doesn't say Elohim. So it says they'll have strength in Jehovah of armies. So they're getting their strength from Jehovah. In that day will I make the judges of Judah. Here they use another word, Aleph, which is, oh, wait a minute. What's wrong here? They got a translation problem here. The governors of Judah, let's see. Yeah, it means a captain or a chief. Okay, so we're back to the judges. The judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. Well, those are the two witnesses. Who else do you know has fire coming out of their mouth? Okay? To be a judge, you have to be a prophet. Revelation 11 refers to them as prophets. Elijah and Apostle John, that's who they are. They shall devour the people, and that word is not heathen, it's Devour would be better translated burn up. And the reason he says it twice is like an earth of fire among the wood and like a torch of fire in a sheaf is because there's two of the two witnesses. There's two, okay? So he says it twice. There's another clue. On the left, and Jerusalem shall be inhabited again. No, it's giving you the impression Jerusalem's been taken away. This is their bad doctrine. You can't be a decent translator unless you have good doctrine, perfect doctrine, and they don't. Again, it's remained still in our own place, even in Jerusalem. So nothing happens to Jerusalem. Jehovah also shall save the tent. Let me just double check that. They burn them up on the right hand and the left. Those are the ones surrounding us. Shall be, okay, Jerusalem, and then the next word, remain. The next word is ode, again, or remain again in I would say place, remain again, or still, you know, word for ode. Old palm means again, or still. Yeah, still would be the better translating word. Remain still in her own place, even in Jerusalem. Okay, they twist that. Because they're playing with bad doctrine, Schofield, Darby garbage and stuff. The translators, the Jehovah also, so they twist it to match that. The Jehovah also shall save the tents of Judah first. Now, he uses the word tents, which is Strong's number 168, Ohel, O-H-E-L. A covering, you see, he's doing the word tent, which could also mean a temporary, well, it could mean a hut or something like that. The contrast here that we're not seeing is the fortified city. There's no wall surrounding Jerusalem like in the Old Testament days. I've been there a million times. I don't know how many times, a lot of times. There's no wall around the place. There's a few spots with an old wall, but there's a little bit of wall, but not much. Only around the old city, and that's a very small part of it. So when he says the tents of Judah, he's explaining we don't have a big fortified, it's not heavily fortified with fences and walls. that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. So he's trying to show that they're all equal, you know. In that day, there we go again, that day shall Jehovah defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Okay, so he fights for them. And he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. Now, feeble are the ones that are not steady on their feet. They can't walk right. Old people, or crippled people, or people that have birth defects, or they're weak, or something like they haven't eaten for weeks. Although I would not think that there's any famine indicated here at all. So they're feeble on their feet, it would really mean. Among them in that day shall be as David. David was the greatest warrior hero in Israel. He killed Goliath, a bear, a lion, great warrior. And the house of David shall be as, it says, Elohim, which is God, plural, as the angel of Jehovah before them. Well, that's Michael, the glory of God of Israel, that went in front of them with Moses and Aaron, and he killed 150,000 in one day. This is the what's called everlasting life, which is not an eternity life. You're going to be something like the way they were before the flood, where they lived almost 1,000 years, but you'll certainly live long enough to make it into New Jerusalem and partake of the tree of life and the water of life, which will push you into this eternity life. Bring you into it, I should say, and you could take that freely. And that's roughly 70 years off. As I've explained with Daniel 9:24, that doesn't say 70 weeks, it says 70 70s. 2 70-year periods. The first 70 was Babylonian captivity, 70 years. The second 70 is the same, 70 years. It starts with the appearing of the sign of Son of Man, which is the birth of a nation in a day, as you'll soon see, and it ends when Yeshua returns to come down on to the earth with New Jerusalem and so forth. Then in there is your 70 years trying and testing of Israel. And there will be a great falling away. Now, the Lord's not heavily giving us all the information about what happens during that time, because we're not there yet. We got to be concerned with what's coming upon us now, not start getting into the New Jerusalem and the end of the world. It's important we know these things, and we have touched on them with some detail, but we need to focus on what's coming up on us right away. And then when we get this past us, then we'll start getting lots of information about what's going to happen again. And you'll not be taken off guard. You'll be prepared. And he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. Now, I am well aware this is foreign to the church, yet it is in your Bible. So that's got to tell you something about the church. And it shall come to pass in that day, there we go again, in that day, that I will seek to destroy all the nations, all the heathens is what it says, that come against Jerusalem. So they want you to think it's the whole world rising up against Jerusalem, and that way you can throw this together with Gog and Magog, which doesn't match. This is Jacob's trouble. Great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. That's Zechariah 12, saved out of it. I will seek to destroy all the heathen that come against Jerusalem. Okay, so it's not all the nations of the world, right? And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications, and they shall look. And that word means look. It's 5027. Nabat. Really, the better translation is to look, which is the one they opted for. You could say look intently, but look is it. Look intently is probably a slightly better translation. They shall look upon me. Well, who's the Word made flesh? Yeshua. This is the Word, right? They shall look upon me, meaning Yeshua, whom they have pierced. And they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. In that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Hadramon in the valley of Megiddo is what it is. And the land shall mourn every family apart, the family of the house of David apart, and the wives apart. Now, while we know almost 2,000 years ago, approximately 2,000 years ago, a little more maybe, I don't know, Yeshua was pierced when they were crucifying him, which I believe was this way, not the other way, and the soldier stuck a spear in his side, and water and blood came out. Okay, but all the families of the land mourning, the wives and the husbands apart. Are you kidding me? This is the church explanation for this, that if they even bother to explain it, this is the explanation they work with. It's absurd. They were all mourning? Are you kidding me? Come on, that's nonsense. This is future. I'll be back in a minute. Quick break. I'll make myself a quick cup of coffee. It's instant, it goes fast. Be right back, and we're going to get into it more deeply. And we're going to do chapter 13. You know, they had encyclopedias in the 1800s. They might have it. No, they're online. You can find it online. Okay, got myself some Bustelo instant espresso, they call it. Why they call it espresso? No, I'm not sure. Trying to find a way to get a real espresso here, and I bought a little cheap espresso machine, and I got the capsules, but full of chemicals, I think. They make me feel funny. So that means they got chemicals in them, so I don't know how to get real espresso. At a loss right now. And I haven't been working very hard on it either. More worried about internet. Looking forward to getting my fiber optic next week. That ought to be good. Okay. So it goes on at the end of Zechariah 12 to tell us the names of the tribes that are mourning the house of Levi and their wives apart. And it says in the last verse, all the families that remain, every family apart, their wives apart. This is a national mourning in the land. This didn't happen. They killed Yeshua. Don't let them fool you. Now we're in 13. Remember, the chapters and verses are artificial. They're inserted by the printers and the publishing houses, okay? The books were written in a scroll, typically rolled up. In that day, there shall be a fountain opened to the house of David. The word for fountain, 47:26 Makor. Strong's flips this into English how? Something dug, a source of water, naturally flowing. This to me appears to be the water flowing out from under the throne in the next temple, or flowing out from under the temple where the glory of God of Israel sits. If you read Ezekiel 40 to 48, you'll pick it up in there. And I guess the glory of God of Israel, the water flowing near him, probably makes it a very special water. This is not the water of life or the tree of life that gives you eternity. It's not that. I don't think the red heifer is required. I have to leave room open that when Elijah is training the Levites to make the offerings acceptable unto the Lord in Malachi 3, possibly they used the red heifer, water from the ashes of the red heifer, but there's nothing telling us that. I wouldn't be too quick to run onto that one. Because here we see a different kind of water cleaning them of sins and uncleanness. So I don't think we need the red heifer. I don't think it's going to be happening. It shall come to pass in that day, saith Jehovah of armies, that I will cut off the names of the idols out of the land. That's the same land of Israel, not the earth. Okay? There you go. Confirmation. And they shall no more be remembered. And also I will cause the prophets and the unclean spirit to pass out of the land. Now, the land is the same word. Eretz, 776, Strong's number. Eretz. Ha is the. There's no scriptural basis or doctrinal basis to say that he runs the unclean spirits out of the earth or off the earth, because then they have to be in the pit, and that's not now. So it's just in Israel that this happens, okay? The land, same land from Zechariah 12. The land that was given to the fathers. And it shall, another confirmation of that, and it shall come to pass that when any shall yet prophesy, then his father and mother that begot him shall say unto him, Thou shalt not live, for thou speakest lies in the name of Jehovah. And his father, and that would be Abba, father, and his mother, and that would be Ima, that begot him, shall thrust him through when he prophesies. So the dedication and the devotion to Yeshua and Jehovah is going to be so strong that the people in the land then would kill their own son for trying to play false prophet. And it shall come to pass in that day, there it is, that day again, that the prophets shall be ashamed, every one of his visions. See, that day could be the closing of the year of recompenses, the shutting down of the day of vengeance. It's finished, rather. And the beginning of the year of redemption. Many times he refers to it as that day. It's a very important day, and it's a day. In that day the prophets shall be ashamed, the false prophets, every one of his vision, when he hath prophesied, neither shall they wear a rough garment to deceive. So the rabbis that are playing this phony prophet game now could be repenting and come out of it. It looks that way. That doesn't mean every one of them, but it appears that way. But he shall say, I am no prophet. I am a husbandman. For man taught me to keep cattle from my youth. And one shall say unto him, What are these wounds in thy hands? Then he shall answer, Those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. And the word for friends is love, not friends. So it's a reference to Yeshua, but not a literalization of this. Because Yeshua is not a false prophet. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd. Well, that's Yeshua. Again, it's a continuation of the previous verse about Yeshua. And against the man that is my fellow, Judas. Saith Jehovah of hosts, smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered. And I will turn my hand upon the little ones. That's the turning of the hand is a good thing. It's not a smack in the head. Now, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, now that's Eretz again, the land, high Eretz, it's the land that he gave to the fathers, saith Jehovah, two parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Yehovah Elohim. So, could this mean that some of the people in Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Gaza, Sinai Peninsula are actually going to be converted? It looks that way. A lot of the Jews have forced conversions to Mohammedanism many, many centuries ago. And they don't know who they are. They lost their identities, so God can bring them back. These could be from Judah, from Levi, from the 10 tribes, all the above, I don't know. So we got to leave room open for that. Now, the amount of actual Israelites that get killed in this may not be that great, because these Muslim Arab enemies that are attacking us are really part of the land he gave to the fathers. They live there. They're attacking from there. So the bulk of them may come from these countries, probably will. When you read Ezekiel 34, the bad shepherds, which would be the government and the rabbis and the Messianic congregation leaders too, are bad shepherds, get cut off, and the government is actually operating like a shepherd in Israel. They get cut off too. They run the welfare system, the healthcare system, and disability system, and all this stuff, right? So they act like shepherds also, so they get cut off. Only the observant Jews, which is about half of Israel, would be listening to the rabbis. So it wouldn't do for the rabbis to just be the only shepherds, because then half of Israel would be unshepherded by Satan. So the government steps in. And they keep the Jews out. They just increased the difficulty to make Aliyah the other day. Of course, they're worried, a lot of Jews, because of the rise in anti-Semitism, they start moving to Israel, so they want to discourage it. See, this is the complete sickness of these people serving Satan, running the place. and also the rich fat ones. I will judge cattle against cattle in Ezekiel 34. The rich fat ones are the millionaires that are evil and mean towards the people in many different ways. They have monopolies, price fixing, discrimination. They only do business with other unclean spirit owned companies and all this other stuff. Other companies that are run by people that serve the unclean spirits. Now, bringing the third through the fire and refining them as silver is refined, trying them as gold is tried, is we see Malachi 3, Elijah doing this. Yafa, knock it off already. It's annoying. But who may abide, it's Malachi 3:2, who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in the former years. And then we have the blessings of the law, which the church has no concept. They think the Lord is done away with. So they're so far lost, Very difficult to get people that are willing to unlearn what they've been taught in the church and learn what their Bible tells them. The only real tribes that are here now is Judah and Levi. So, and there's a little bit of Benjamin, not much. Very small. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and that's any kind of witch, against the adulterers, and against false swearers, against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow, the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of armies. So, what we got going on here is God judging these people in Israel, the bad ones. This is Ezekiel 34. And they get cut off, probably through Elijah and Apostle John, the two witnesses. It's possible Jehovah dispatches them himself, but probably through Elijah and John. They would maybe be trying to war against Elijah for training the Levites to do sacrifices. I'm not sure how exactly it's going to unravel. Is hard, but we're given a general picture. We look through a glass darkly. So Ezekiel 34 is definitely a big piece of it. Well, it's an important part of this. That basically is the crux of it. I want to go through my notes and see what I left out. So we destroy, the two witnesses destroy the nations round about. It doesn't sound like the whole earth to me. Okay. America is still going to be doing evil. When we go into Rafa, there's going to be a whole new round of uprisings against Israel around the world, the campuses or whatever. It's going to spread off the campuses. The campuses are more or less to recruit people to join their movement and to get publicity, but it doesn't, if they shut all the universities down, which they never would, so why? With Israel, pay attention that the military has never gotten a victory yet since October 7th. They still haven't completely conquered Gaza. They haven't conquered Syria or Yemen or Lebanon. So it's not working for them. Okay? It's the year of recompenses. So these nations that did this are getting punished. Hezbollah's getting punished, and the Houthis are getting punished, and Gaza's getting punished, and Saudi Arabia's getting punished, but it's not in the fullness of what their punishment will be by the time it's over. Zechariah 9 verse 7 is worth reading. And I will take away his blood. Well, let me go to 6. And a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, and I will cut off the pride of the Philistines. That's Gaza. And I will take away his blood out of his mouth, and his abominations from between his teeth. He that remembereth, even he shall be for our God. He that remaineth. See, there's going to be some left in Gaza that are of us by blood, birthline. But he that remaineth, even he shall be for our God. And they may be converts. And he shall be as a governor, as a judge in Judah. No, word governor is... No, I don't think it's the same word. Hold on. Yeah, it is. You know, it's the same word. So they're going to be, he that remaineth, even he shall be for our God. He shall be as a governor or a prince or a judge in Judah, and Ekron as a Jebusite. It's an analogy, it's not a literalization. They'll be gung ho on fire for God. And I will encamp about my house because of the army, because of him that passeth by, and because of him that returneth, and no oppressor shall pass through them any more. For now have I seen with mine eyes. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion, that would be us. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem, again, us, because thy king, the Melech king, cometh unto thee. The word cometh is bo, come, unto thee. He is just in having salvation. The word for salvation is Yasha, the root of Yeshua's name. Riding upon an ass and upon a colt, the foal of an ass. Well, that happened, you know. And it goes on in Zechariah 9:11, which is important so you don't get taken off guard. As for thee also, by the blood of thy covenant, I have sent forth thy prisoners out of the pit, wherein is no water. That's where Yeshua went to preach to the dead. The Israelites, having their ears stopped by God and their eyes blinded, didn't turn to him to repent. So they got the full punishment and they got cut off and they went to the pit where they remain today. But there is hope. Let me read again. Continue. Zechariah 9:12. Turn you to the stronghold, you prisoners of hope. And the word for hope is tikva, the hope. That's the national song of Israel. Even today do I declare that I will render double unto you. So they get the double portion with us. They come out of here. They are, you know, risen from the dead, nothing short. Just read Ezekiel 37. And they come to Israel, get the double portion. So you'll be hanging out with ladies and gentlemen that lived hundreds and thousands of years ago. The stories you could share. These people saw and knew the prophets, the kings, the priests, the different temples. I mean, it'd be amazing, right? You'd be hanging out with them. Neighbors, if you will. When I have bent Judah, they'll be able to tell you what really went on, won't they? When I have, of course, the Bible does too, but they'll be able to fill it in with more depth and detail. The Bible would be massive if it told us every little detail. When I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, 10 tribes, and raised up thy sons, O Zion, against the sons of Greece, and made thee as the sword of a mighty man. Well, that's Zechariah, 12. The feeble fight as David, and the house of David fight as the glory God of Israel. And Jehovah shall be seen over them, and his arrow shall go forth as the lightning. And Adonai Jehovah shall blow the trumpet, and shall go with whirlwinds of the south. Now, Jehovah will be seen over them. Well, how about that? Yeshua said he'll appear in the clouds, seated on the right hand of power. The right hand of power is Jehovah. Psalm 110:1, the Lord said to my Lord, sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. Oh, at this point, the enemies are not made his footstool, so Yeshua appears seated on the right hand of his Father. They both are you see both of them. You see me seated on the right hand of power. Appearing in the clouds as the lightning from the east to the west. And Jehovah shall be seen over them. There it is. Got another confirmation. And shall go with whirlwinds of the south. Jehovah of hosts or armies shall defend them. And they shall devour, and that could very well be translated burn up, and subdue, or it could be devour, with sling stones. And they shall drink and make a noise as through wine, and they shall be filled like bowls, and as the corner of the altar. So, you're going to fight with sling stones. The people shall be as David. Did David fight with sling stones? Yes. How do you think he killed Goliath? But you're going to be not like regular people. You're not going to be like Olympic athletes. You're going to be above and beyond that. And with this is probably going to come great physical coordination. So you take leather straps, you have a leather patch in there, take a smooth stone from the ground, and you'll hit. And it'll penetrate. It'll be very painful and deadly. A rock is not the size of a bullet. It's many times bigger and heavier. It caused a lot of injury. David toppled the 9 or 10 foot jerk Goliath, drove it into his forehead. A man's forehead is probably about like this. That jerk was probably like that. It went through his forehead. And Jehovah Elohim shall save them in that day. Well, it's Zechariah 12. As the flock of his people, for they shall be as the stones of a crown, lifted up as a sign unto his land. Unto his land. And what's the word for land here? Yeah, it could mean land or ground. For how great is his goodness and how great is his beauty. He's quite beautiful. Corn shall make the young men cheerful. There's my wine. Is that corn liquor like in Kentucky, or is that just corn, maybe like tortillas or something? Who knows? I don't know. Shall make the young men cheerful, and new wine the maids. You enjoying this? You need to understand when this happens, Judah and Jerusalem will be of their own might defenseless against the enemies, laying siege. And they will be delivered miraculously by God. So the whole world will know that God did this, not the military or the government or America or NATO or the UN or any of that garbage. Because when you read Jeremiah 30, before the birth of the nation in the day. They're so scared they clutch their guts and their faces turn pale. And that's Jacob's trouble, greatest trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. The bad ones get cut off, but the good ones, the poor, the feeble, the humble, the meek, they get raised up. So let's just quickly look at John 19:37. John. And again, another scripture saith, they shall look on him whom they have pierced. Okay. Now, that was Apostle John knowing what the heck Zechariah 12 was all about, and he brought it out for them. Maybe at that time they didn't realize it, but down the road, or it could have been for us. Jeremiah 30, 33, no, 31, I think. 31, 33. Now, there's a new covenant, and the church teaches, oh, that's the New Testament, that's us, and all. That's not what it is saying. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Jehovah. I will put my law in their inward parts. Now, how could the church have the law, the Torah, in their inward parts when they say the Torah and the law has been done away with? Obviously, it's not them. I will put my Torah in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know Jehovah, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Jehovah, for I will forgive their lawlessness and their sin, for I will forgive their iniquity, their lawlessness, and remember their sin no more. So the people in the church, their neighbors, all of the Lord, and they don't have to tell their neighbors to know the Lord. How could you convince the same person of that? You can't. Don't let these churchianity liars convince you that Satan really knows the scriptures. Obviously, I've shown you time and time again he doesn't. He might have listened to the apostles preach and Yeshua preach and stuff like that, and other key people, but that doesn't mean anything. Satan's a whack job. He's crazy. So are the demons. They're all nuts. I want to throw something out there. Some of the North American Indians, which I believe are lost tribes, but still in Israel in my book, as I see it, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we'll see this unveiled pretty shortly. They were taught to have animal guides, like they would call on a bear, a snake, a turtle, who knows what, right? This is just unclean spirits making themselves look like animals, or telling them they're animals. It's a way to get into them and possess them. It's just some sick demonology, witchcraft garbage to pull them in. So if you come across that with the lost tribes, just remember that's what it is. It's just demons. It's well, I've accomplished what I was told to accomplish today. And the Lord's been progressive, showing us, giving you all these confirmations. It's going to go down real soon, so get ready. That's why he's telling you to get ready. And you have nothing to fear. Okay? All things work to good of the Lord. So just stay strong. Hang on. You've been beaten down and trodden down and smacked around by the unclean spirit people and all this stuff for many decades, a lot of you, and you got a very short distance to run to the. It's not the ultimate finish line, but it's a darn good finish line. You're going to be healed of your sicknesses and diseases and be like young again. Although you'll have the wisdom of your years, your physical body will be like a young person's, but more so and much better than that. And it'll stay young for a long time. A child die 100. Well, if a child's eating from the tree of life and drinking of the water of life, he ain't going to die at all. So this is talking about the days pre New Jerusalem and Yeshua returned back to us here. So it's talking about the previous to that, and it hasn't happened yet, so it's going to happen very shortly. And that's going to be pretty good. And then combine that with wealth and riches, combine that with a country observing the law, combine that with a country where the whole place observes Shabbat, and everything just gets peaceful, rest. You'll go under your grapevine and your fig tree, whatever, and lay out there in the sun, sit underneath it, pet your dog or play with your cat or whatever, and hang out. And your neighbor will come out and hang out with you. You're not going to have locks on your doors. You go out of your house and leave your door not only unlocked, wide open. Nothing's going to happen. There'll be a temple. So, just to put it in simple terms, imagine you at your peak physical condition, maybe like 23, 25, something like that, 21, somewhere around there, but many times, multiple times better in your physical state and condition than you were. The women are going to look beautiful, like when the fallen angels came down and they saw the women, they were beautiful. Well, you're going to be like that, only not like that. You're going to be more than that. And yeah, you dudes will be handsome. More so than the ones in the past, the Errol Flynn's and that kind of thing. Much more than that. Because they had rotten bodies, And they only held their peak for, 15 years? 20 years? You'll hold it for a long, long time. But you'll make it to New Jerusalem. And it's a better ball game altogether all over again. There's going to be a big falling away and a testing again. They'll even be testing in New Jerusalem, but I don't think that anybody's going to fall away. But, that'll be when Satan's released again. But I think everybody in Jerusalem's just going to sit tight and wait for it. They're not going to do much of anything. What do they have to do? They're not going to run away. They're not going to get scared or anything like that. So this is a really good thing that's going to happen. Completely foreign to the world. The church doesn't understand any of this. I don't think Satan really grasps it. And he might have some supernatural knowledge, not supernatural, he might have some vague understanding of this, but he doesn't really get it. Remember, he's Looney Tunes, and the demons are Looney Tunes. They've been running amok for 2,000 years, and it's drawing close. The close is coming, and they see it. And that brings them closer to the pit. They're not looking forward to 1,000 years in the pit. Then they come out briefly, and then they wind up in the lake of fire, and that's where they know they're winding up, and they don't like it. Are they really destroying God's elect? I doubt it. I think what they're doing is destroying those that are called but not chosen. They're leading them astray because it'd be impossible for them to ever get on the right path anyway. They're not the elect. Deceive the very elect if it were possible. It's not impossible. It's not possible. You got out of the churches. All right. So with Malachi 3, with him training the Levites, pray that the Lord gives me a good sense of timing when that happens. And a good sense of timing when we have the tabernacle and the temple, which probably come at different times. So pray I get that right, okay? I think I do. I think I have it right, but pray that I get it right. In which case he would confirm it or give me the truth about it. Okay, pray for me and my wife for a peace, safety, protection, joy, healing. Pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues. They be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Thank you for those giving offerings. And make sure you subscribe, because when the eggs start hitting the fan, I come on and do unannounced live streams at multiple times a day. And if you want to find out what's going on from within Israel, suggest you subscribe and click the notification bell so you can pick it up. I'm usually 12 hours ahead of the mainstream media with these things, at least 8 hours anyway. So if that's of interest to you, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell. And please, it'll take you 2 seconds, hit the thumbs up button, which seems to help with the algorithm in YouTube. And that's what I got for today. And I send my Shabbat Shalom for all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and pray that the installation next week of the fiber optic goes well, so they don't have to come back 4 or 5 times. Okay, that's what I got. And I hope you enjoyed it, got something out of it, and I'm under 2 hours. Amazing. I'm out.